One of the bonuses of being dead is you can have your name dragged through the mud and not have to hear about it. Oh, of course, it's the whole thing about not being able to defend yourself or clear your name and all that. But you don't really know what's going on. Well, depending on what you believe. And here we have it. FBI has tapes of Martin Luther King laughing as woman was forcefully entered in front of him. That's correct. Now this is in the Mirror. I haven't seen if it's anywhere else yet. Sometimes I think the sources that the Mirror have are, bus loonies and people that start drinking in Weatherspoons at about 10 a.m. But we must delve into what they have to say. I mean, look at the photo they've used as well. I mean, look at him. He looks, what a cad. Look at that. Look at that. Hey, playboy. Hey, getting a little smoochy then. He's all like, See, he looks like Pepe Le Pew in human form. Look at that. What a photo to use. Well done. Good for you, Mirror. You bastion of good reporting. Shocking details of the FBI smear campaign against Martin Luther King Jr. have been found on secret tapes. It is claimed. Now the FBI were hard for Martin Luther King. You got to remember something, right? That during the civil rights movement, especially Martin Luther King, his activism was going against so many odds. Not only was he going against the government, he was going against the FBI and the police. They were all out to get him. Man had dogs set on him and was fire hosed. Him and other protesters. Like literally everyone was out to get him. Hell of a lot of the public didn't really like what he was doing. Didn't agree with him. Sound like anyone you know? You can remember that. Unlike activists these days who are just appreciated by all, Oh, and the media smeared him too. But nowadays it's people that call themselves sort of certain activists just have a really jolly time these days, and other so-called activists don't. It makes you think about the context of history and what light the future will cast upon this point in time now, doesn't it? But yes, they did dirty things to Martin Luther King, stuff to do with infidelity, all kinds of stuff. Just you can learn that just by reading. So read. It is alleged the agency accused the celebrated civil rights campaigner of having up to 40 affairs. 40 affairs is what they accused him of. As the US Baptist minister rose to prominence in the 1950s and 60s, he was subjected to years of wiretaps and eavesdropping by infamous intelligence chief J. Edgar Hoover, the original man, who believed he had Communist Party ties. Details of the covert tapes have been revealed by biographer David Garrow, who says he has unearthed files not scheduled for release until 2027. Now, I've never understood the whole why they set certain specific dates. I guess just to make sure everyone who's involved is dead, I suppose. But to be honest, when they release this stuff, I'm like, yeah, really? And what isn't being released? Do you really think if there was a conspiracy by the CIA, say, the conspiracies that they like to kill JFK, say that was some government cover-up, right? Do you think they're actually going to release that? Do you think you're actually going to be able to read that? What do you think that will do to public mistrust? Even though it may have happened a very long time ago, I still don't think it'd be a good idea. So I just don't believe they've released everything. I think it's a load of nonsense, to be honest with you. The author claims Dr. King, who was only 39 when he was killed on April 4th, 1968, spent 12 years, almost a third of his life, under the FBI's watch. The covert surveillance was designed to undermine the civil rights activists, as Hoover feared his popular movement could destabilize the country. Agents honed on King's philandering and claims he fathered a child, claims which Garrett argues could lead to painful historical reckoning. Although the tapes recorded by Bugs in 2 lamps in hotel rooms booked by King in January 1964 are still kept in a vault at the US National Archives, the author and historian has unearthed the FBI's summaries of the various incidents. He claims they show King had extramarital affairs with up to 45 women and, shockingly, even looked on and laughed as pastor friend Logan Curse did the naughties on a practitioner. The naughties meaning forceful entry of the vagina. The recording from the Willard Hotel near the White House in Washington, D.C. shows how King was accompanied by Curse, who died in 1991, along with several female parishioners of his church. In his hotel room, the files claim they then discussed which women among the parishioners would be suitable for natural and unnatural sex acts. The FBI document says, when one of the women protested that she did not approve, the Baptist minister immediately and forcefully done her as King watched. He is alleged to have looked on, laughed, and offered advice during the attack. Can you picture that in your head? Can you hear it? FBI agents were in the room next door, but did not intervene. What a moral conundrum that is. I would say stick your job and intervene is what I would do. and where was the reckoning after that? I mean, like, the FBI, you can cover stuff up. Why didn't they go do the man? Why didn't they just serve some justice on him? I mean, like, it was back in those days. They were up to all sorts, weren't they? Law enforcement. They didn't give an F about nothing. Why didn't they go? Why don't they go? Stick a 38 up his bumhole. But there you go. The following day, King and a dozen other allegedly participated in a sex orgy, engaging in acts of degeneracy and depravity. When one woman showed this is mental. When one woman showed resistance, King was allegedly heard saying that performing the act would help your soul. This all sounded very far-fetched. Senior FBI officials allegedly later sent a copy of the incriminating tape to King and called him an evil, abnormal beast and told him his sexual exploits would be on record for all time. The letter also suggested he should commit suicide before his wrongs were revealed to the world. Mr. Garrow said he had no idea of the scale of the ugliness of it, nor of King's apparent indifference to rape until he saw the files. He said it poses so fundamental a challenge to the historical stature as to require the most complete and extensive historical review possible. Historian and leading American civil rights activist Edith Lee Payne told the Mirror she was disgusted at the claims. A 67-year-old of Detroit, Michigan, who became the iconic poster girl of the I Have a Dream speech in Washington, said, "This false information on Dr. King is beyond disturbing. It's blatantly obvious that the person is using the sterling reputation of one of the most admired and respected men for personal attention and for what remains to be seen. Always possible. Certainly an attack on Dr. King would get him attention. Fortunately, there are still people around who are close to Dr. King and know him and his character. The life of a dedicated, committed, selfless man, husband, father, pastor, and civil rights leader, as Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. demanded that his time and efforts meet each challenge and responsibility. His respect as a civil rights leader reached millions of people from every wall." It says wall of life. I'm pretty sure it means walk of life. Race, creed, color, gender, nationality, and religion in this country and around the world. Personally, I am immensely honored and proud to have marched with him twice. The second time was in August 28, 1963, March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom in Washington, D.C. that rocked the nation and the world, and we still celebrate Dr. King more than 5 decades later and by generations who weren't even born. He'll continue to be celebrated for generations to come. He was that kind of man. The FBI really had damaging evidence on Dr. King. They would have exposed it. I think that's a valid point too. From first-hand accounts to me from members of his inner circle, he was never alone. Even when he traveled, I think I'm supposed to say, his time was consumed in strategies, meetings, and organizing in preparation for acts of civil disobedience or whatever he was called upon to do, and of course, rest. He's authored scores of books and articles. Alright. So I'm going to stop reading it because she's going on and on and on and on. It's like, we get it, alright? We get it, okay? Yesterday, the claims divided opinion among posters on social media. You think? Rhonda Vate, whoever that is. Do we take down the MLK Memorial and rename all the streets named after MLK now? You can never know because it's in text form. Is there a laughing emoji or something like that? I don't know. One wrote, goes to show the FBI has been illegally spying on Americans all the way back to Martin Luther King. Right, okay, valid point, but we all knew that they were anyway. I knew that. But you're missing kind of the point. The whole rape things, I think it's the real big juicy issue here. Last year, former FBI Director James Comey unapologetically and openly criticized Hoover for spying on Dr. King. He said the Bureau unlawfully investigated his private life and used intimidation to decrease his followings. His growing support. Right, well... I mean, just to throw it out there, if it turns out to be true that he did these things, how much would it really matter? I mean, really, not everyone's perfect. I mean, it's dark, but what he did, his other actions, what he did, I mean, would you not celebrate? Would you stop celebrating and saying the name of Martin Luther King if it turned out that he is a rapist? Right, his actual achievements. You can't deny the achievements that he made. I mean, it doesn't sound like the kind of thing. I mean, some people who have been caught out to be wrong and I don't know. I'm saying it would be bizarre that a man who sort of dedicated his life to selfless causes of trying to liberate people would be that hideous a monster. But in the grand scheme of things, yeah, it'd be disgusting. But the things he did were still the other things he did. It's just so as in, it doesn't matter. Like the civil rights movement and everything that was achieved by him. Does, like in that Dave Chappelle bit when it says how much good outweighs what he did, was the joke about Bill Cosby. In fact, someone out there is probably putting two and two together right now and saying, oh, Dave Chappelle knew all along. Dave Chappelle does a comedy bit where he says, oh, there's this superhero character, and he does so much for people, he liberates people, he does all these brilliant things, but he also rapes. But he does more good than he does rapes. Let's talk about Bill Cosby, basically. So it's like, yeah, he rapes, but he does way more good for the world than he does rape. He just occasionally rapes. So, and it's an interesting conundrum, isn't it? It's like, well, how much good does a man have to do to outweigh the bad? Do you know what I'm saying? Because especially these days, like, rape is considered to be the most heinous of crimes of all. It's like rape and I don't know, racially aggravated assault, probably like the worst crimes you can commit, or obviously racially aggravated murder. But like, rape seems to be considered worse than murder these days. And it is, but it's. How much would this outweigh what he did? Would you change? Would you stop having Martin Luther King Day? Would you stop having these things? See, when it comes into context. See, when they talk about certain people who were, say someone like John Ruskin. A lot of, you got John Ruskin Street in South London, and like John Ruskin was a prominent figurehead in he did a lot. He did a lot for, the city. He's very famous. and the Goldsmith. You know, a lot of these people have, and Colston in Bristol, whatever his name was. You know, the Colston Hall, but he was a slave trader. John Ruskin were engaged in slave trading. It's like, what a hell of a lot of people did at the time with it, you know, saying, oh, we'll remove their statues, change the name of the streets because of that. It's like, yeah, but didn't what? But in context of the times, although rape definitely wasn't a normalized thing, even in the wild and wacky swinging 60s. But still, are you gonna? If it turns out to be true, are you not going to have Martin Luther King Day? Are you going to erase him from the history books and say, just talk about the civil rights movement and not mention his speech? You know, never show Selma again? See what I'm saying? Is that what you're going to do? Is that what you'd do? Would that be the right thing to do? You know, if you did rape this, if you did partake in this rape, is that too much for us to celebrate the man and the great things he did? One rape. Can you allow a man who did so much, can you just allow him one rape and it be okay? Well, not okay, but you know, say, well, he did that one rape, but he did all these great things. I don't know. Because how many heinous things have you done and how many great things have you done yourself? Do you know what I mean? You got to weigh it up, haven't you? Like, how many great things have you done for humanity, for the people, for society? You know, your great achievements. Weigh that up against all the shitty things you've done. It's probably an equal amount of very base great things and very base shitty things. So it's all balanced out. But when you've done such a great thing, as in the civil rights movement, the freedom of a race of people, the rights. Compare that and how many people's lives have been touched and bettered because of that, and weigh that up against one rape. And you, what do? You know, donated to charity once. You also cheated on your girlfriend. You know, you stole something. But then another time, you know, you opened a door for someone. You helped an old lady cross the road, and you also stole 10 quid off one of your best friends. Equally little shitty and little good things that balances out your life. You know, you're neither good nor bad. But Martin Luther King, one rape versus liberating millions of people. You know, can you safely point a finger at him if it turns out to be true? If I have a huge amount of doubts about it. It definitely sounds like bullshit, but if it turns out to be true, can you safely point a finger and say, oh, what an evil, rotten person he was, when he has done way more for humankind than you could ever even dream of? And one rape. Yeah, think about that. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.